I am using that as a reason to say that he may not have just been going up to 168. He may have actually thought to cross the water.
It's fair. It's fair.
He might have. I mean, I think that would be a dumb move.
I
personally.
agree.
I mean,
but I tend to trust the bloodhound. I mean, I think the bloodhound probably tracked him, and so that would suggest that he also did not perish in the river, that he crossed the river.
It appears the bloodhounds, the track. It appears to me from what I have read, and you guys have read the same stuff that I've read. Yeah, he was tracked all the way to the road, 160th Avenue. He was tracked all the way there. So whether he made a little side trip to the river or not, I'm not really sure. There's some thinking that he might have fallen into the river, gotten soaked, and then gotten back out.
Well, that would also explain the phone a little bit, maybe.
Yeah.
I mean, there's the potential that it got wet enough that the ringer and screen were no longer working, but it was still, quote unquote.
Yeah, it was still sort of
ringing.
working, but it wasn't functional. In the sense of
so on his end, it wasn't ringing.
He had no idea, and he couldn't see who
he thought it died.
Yeah.
That's actually
Yeah. So as far as falling into the river goes, all the evidence suggests that he made it to 160th Avenue. So from that point, there were only two other places where he could have fallen into the river. There was a culvert about half a mile, three-quarters of a mile down the road. I'm assuming, and I think it's fair to assume this, that he continued westward on 160th. So there was a culvert where the river passed under the road. He could have fallen in there. I don't think he did because, it's like when you're walking on a gravel road, you kind of know when you're getting off the road because you stop hearing that crunchy sound that your feet are making. So even if he was completely blind, and completely unable to see in the dark, he still could have made his way just by the noise and then the texture of them. And so I don't think he fell into that culvert. And then the next place was just right outside the town of Porter. There's a bridge there. I assume you guys have seen it on the aerials. Yeah, and the bridge would be it's got a guardrail and everything like that. So that'd be kind of impossible.
And again, it's reasonable to trust the bloodhound's tracking, probably.
Probably.
Yeah, that's where it went. So, okay. So we don't think he fell and drowned.
So we don't think he fell into the river and drowned. Yeah. Another theory is that Brandon fell and he was knocked unconscious and died from exposure. And it was a bit chilly out. It was 46 degrees Fahrenheit, which, by the way, is about 8 degrees centigrade.
You're welcome.
Yeah. But Brandon was actually dressed for cool weather. I mean, he wasn't dressed for freezing cold, but he had on a T-shirt, a polo shirt over that, and also a hoodie sweatshirt. So, I mean...
That's enough.
You think that was enough?
Yeah, I mean, if he was soaking... If he had indeed fallen into the river...
Yeah.
And was soaking wet in cold water... and came out and was walking and then fell and got knocked unconscious and was really out cold, that's a reasonable assumption to make. But if we're saying he was dry and walking in a hoodie, I mean, I think that's enough.
Yeah.
It's not going to be comfortable, but you're not going to die of hypothermia.
Oh, no, not at all. And of course, if he was knocked unconscious, where's the body?
Yeah.
So I have an idea on that.
Yeah.
We already talked about this, is that the road got graded. So if it's a crappy road before they grade it, typically what you'll do is drive along pouring gravel, and then you grade it, and the shoulder always grows. The shoulder of the road, because there's always excess gravel getting shoved over. So if he's right on the shoulder, he could have been buried. Now, why the dog didn't find him, I know, so don't give me the look. But he could have been buried in extra gravel.
Well, for me, it's more than that. It's been a really long time. I'm sure that road has been, all the gravel's been stripped off it and regraded, and they've done a lot of stuff to that road.
Off the shoulders?
Yeah.
Maybe.
Yeah.
I'm sure that it's moved around enough that if there were a body of a 19-year-old man in there,
it
would have been exposed.
I'm saying this
is
another way. People always say, well, this couldn't have happened. Well, but technically it could have. It probably didn't because it hasn't been discovered yet.
Yeah. I mean, there's all kinds of problems with the whole he fell and died of exposure, which is that no matter where he fell, he would be right in plain sight.
Yeah.
Yeah. And there's some ways that people maybe could have missed it. But,
with the amount of dogs they've used in this search, I don't think they would have missed it. At this point, a dog would have found it.
Yeah,
even if he was kind of hidden, or in some brush or, under gravel, I think they've used enough body detection dogs that they would have been found. He would have been found.
I think so. And there's other things too. It's like, we've all discussed hypothermia before and how people get this delusional feeling that they're too warm. They start stripping their clothes off and stuff. And that didn't happen here apparently.
Well, but he would have been unconscious.
Oh yeah. Well,
so he wouldn't have been stripping his clothes off.
Yeah, well, I mean,
Probably.
there are other theories, and that is that he was freezing cold because he was wet. He was suffering from hypothermia, not quite right in the head. And he crawled into a hidey hole. He crawled underneath an outbuilding in a farm.
Again, I think dogs.
Dogs would have found it. Yeah, probably.
Or humans. I mean.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Well, another theory, and this is very popular, is that he fell into a well or a cistern.
And this was the first thing I thought of.
Yeah, and those things are out there, but they've been checking every cistern, every well, every basement, every coal chute in the area. They've checked.
That they know of.
That they know of. There could be ones out there that they don't know of.
And that's what I was thinking, is that it's a poorly covered one. He falls in, and then within weeks, the vegetation covers up that hole again.
Yeah, it's possible.
That's possible. I actually spent a lot of time on the map looking for those kind of things.
Yeah, but the thing about it is if that was his OS moment, he's walking through that field and suddenly he falls into a well, and if it were me, I wouldn't be going, oh, I'd be going, I would scream. I mean, I don't know what you guys would do.
I mean, I think
the falling motion would be where you said you had your OS moment.
Yeah.
That's always my. I
the
would say
fall.
Yeah, and I when I trip I go
Yeah.
or oh
Yeah.
or God bless America or whatever. But that's all. My initial reaction to things like that is to go something.
Yeah.
Not to
scream.
Well, I don't know. I mean, it was.
So if he goes and then drops the phone, it goes dead, and then he's like.
Well, that's also saying that he falls into something that is a mile deep.
Yeah.
I mean,
is he not?
I don't know.
It could be something that was several feet down.
So I don't know, and I've not been able to find out what his exact tone of voice was. Whether it was like, oh shoot, or was it, oh shoot, or was it, oh shit? I mean, I don't know. I don't know what exactly it was.
Yeah.
Okay.
So the open well or cistern, I'll have more to say about that later. Why I don't believe he did.
Okay.
Yeah, I don't think he did. Another theory is that he just broke his phone, and actually his OS moment, his oh shoot moment, was actually not any huge crisis.
He fell into the river, got it wet, and then
or like a serial killer didn't show up with a chainsaw. It wasn't that. It's like more like he tripped over something or he stepped in a cow pie, something like that. But he continued walking. His phone wasn't working, but he died of hypothermia later. But if he did make it to 160th, and all evidence indicates that he did, then he would have passed a farmhouse. You guys have seen the aerials, I'm assuming. There's a farmhouse just like, I don't know, less than a mile down the road. I have to assume he was continuing west. He would have passed that farmhouse. They probably wouldn't have been thrilled to be woken up at 3:30 or so in the morning, but it's better than dying. It's better than freezing to death.
Yeah.
If he was truly in a crisis. There's other theories out there. One is, of course, this one always comes up in these disappearances. He ran away to join the circus. He started a new life. And
I think yes.
He's living on a farm with Dorothy.
I think
Arnold
he was a
and
terrible
Marbury.
juggler.
Yeah.
Circus wouldn't have taken him.
Yeah, you think so?
No,
okay.
I have no idea.
So you guys aren't liking this theory?
No.
You
Never
don't like
do.
it?
What's
Yeah.
the next one?
Oh, there's of course alien abduction. What do you guys think?
There's no proof. Was there crop circles?
No, there weren't.
Yeah.
So,
This is just another one to be fun.
Yeah.
No.
No, and then another one, and this is always stressed when you read the web pages about him. Is law enforcement always stresses that there's no evidence of foul play.
Well, there's no evidence
Of
in
foul play.
general.
There's no evidence. Well, yeah, there's no evidence of any of these things. As far as like hypothermia, drowning,
Right.
There's absolutely no evidence of falling into a cistern. There's no evidence for anything. There's some variations on the foul play theory, and this is just in my head. So what if Brandon actually did stop at that farmhouse that I was mentioning a minute ago and knock on the door, but the farmer turned out to be a serial killer?
The Bloody Benders live there.
Yeah, could have been. Yeah, so oopsie. So he did a lot of walking for nothing.
Yep.
Or an alternative theory is that the farmer was a very suspicious, paranoid type, and he shot Brandon to death because there's a guy on your
accident,
property.
Yeah.
At 3:34 in the morning.
Stumbling around and being weird.
Yeah, and so he might maybe shot him to death, and then maybe thought about it and thought, maybe I should hush this up a little bit. And
Put him underneath the grain silo.
yeah, he buried him somewhere. And actually, in the aerial of the farm, there is a spot that's a little bit greener.
No.
Yeah. Okay, I'm just kidding. But And I don't think that's what happened, but that's it's possible. Another possibility is that Brandon made it all the way to the town of Porter, which I think he might just have done. But the town was all rolled up and nothing was open. And I have no idea if there was a phone booth or any sort of public phone in Porter at that time.
I don't know. It's hard to tell.
2008. I mean, phone booths are almost all gone. There's still one that I know of down on like 12.
Yeah, there's not many of them.
You know the one I'm talking about?
No, but it doesn't matter.
It's a weird, lonely little phone thing. In this vacant lot. But anyway, I looked on Street View. I didn't see anything resembling a public phone.
But maybe in 2008 there were.
Maybe there was. Yeah.
Or a bar. If an 18-year-old kid stumbles into a bar and says, "I crashed my car in a ditch 3 miles back. I walked here. My phone is dead. Can I use your phone to call my parents?" You're probably going to say, "Yeah."
Yeah. Oh no,
sure.
For sure. But I mean, it was like 4 a.m. at least by the time he got to Porter. So I doubt that there was any bar open.
Yeah, that's fair.
No.
Yeah. But at the same time, there is a cafe in Porter. And I'm assuming the cafe would have opened at, what do you think, 6, 7 in the morning?
Something like that?
Yeah.
5 or 6?
Sometimes, yeah. In farmland, usually like 4 or 5, usually.
Yeah, so you could have just hung out and just waited for them to open, got a cup of coffee and used their phone. I mean, I just don't know. And of course, I'm making a lot of assumptions here.
Yeah.
About, we don't know. Between the time that he got onto 160th and whatever else happened, we have no idea.
Well,
it could have been that a serial killer just showed up in a pickup truck on 160th right there where
Jason in the hockey mask.
Yeah, and it could have been. But I know, this is why I totally don't believe he fell into a cistern or a well. And that is, we know he got to 160th.
No, we don't.
Yeah, we do. The dog says so.
We're reasonably sure.
We'll say that. We're reasonably sure.
Okay. I trust those dogs a lot, but when it comes to this and we have no trail other than what the dogs find, and it comes for naught, that's when I stop relying on it so strongly.
Yeah.
Because then it widens the area that he could have gone.
I got to say, I am taking the word of one dog for all this, and so I hope that dog.
And that dog could be a liar.
I hope that dog ain't making a fool of me.
It was the dog.
Yeah.
The dog did it.
Yeah. But here's
serial bloodhound.
But here's the reason. I'm sure he didn't fall into the river. I don't think he had any reason to go near the river. That area where they tracked him, where the dog tracked him all the way to 160th. Well, obviously that was intensively searched. If there were wells or cisterns or anything else in that field, then they would have found his body in there.
This is why I have such a problem with the dog trail, is that based on it, they have scoured that area dead in a field because nothing was growing at that time. They had planted, but it wasn't as if the grass was 3 feet high, so you would see the body.
Well, I guess I just don't know why, we keep saying, well, the road was graded and he walked up the road. Like, why is it not that somebody was driving down the road and said, "Hey, I saw you crash, let me give you a ride into town."
And then,
and then turned out to be not a nice person.
Turned out to be a serial killer.
Yeah.
I feel like that's such an easy theory.
I strongly believe that this was a case of foul play.
Yeah.
And then they took him in a completely different direction.
Yeah. I don't see,
well, in fairness, he had no idea where he was anyway. So
right.
Yeah, he did.
He could have maybe been giving them directions and they were just like,
yeah, they could have said, "Oh no, that's actually this town and you want to go to that town? Let's go this way." And then just taking him for the last ride of his life.
I think so. Yeah, I don't see any other explanation for it really. I mean, he made it. There's no reason to believe that he didn't make it to 160th, and from there, there's no reason for him to leave the road. He would have stayed on the road all the way to Highway 68, and then Highway 68 to Porter. So, yeah.
And as Steve was talking about, the brain of a 19-year-old who's probably actually just coming off of, I don't know, I'm sure you guys remember, there's those times where you get like a little drunk or tipsy and then you're awake for so long that you start to get hungover and you get real grumpy.
Yeah.
And I'm sure he was at that point by then, and he'd been lost for a really long time, and he'd been walking, and he was tired, and he was just like mad because his parents said, "We're here." He's just frustrated, and he thinks he's invincible. And a car, he just puts a thumb out. Car's going by.
Yeah.
Who drives around in the middle of nowhere in the middle of the night?
No,
serial killers and farmers.
Killers. Yeah. So it's entirely possible. In fact, I think it's probable. So.
All right, so it's a serial killer farmer.
It doesn't have to be serial killer though.
A killer farmer.
Just somebody with bad intentions.
It could be, but and that might be the solution to this case. Is that one of these days, who knows, somebody might nab a serial killer who operates in the Minnesota area, and then he might actually fess up to the whole thing. I mean, who knows?
Or she.
Oh, good point. Well, okay. You guys have any more theories?
Nope.
No? Yeah, I think we pretty much solved this one, except for who actually did it. Oh, well.
I don't know that we'll ever know who.
Yeah.
But we might know what happened to him.
Yeah.
Which is kind of a bummer.
Yeah, kind of is.
Yeah.
But I do think that you guys can stop scouring the countryside. By all means, identify that corpse that's in Mud Creek. But other than that...
Yeah, find out where that's at.
Yeah, find that out. I don't think it's Brandon, really.
Mm-mm.
Anyway, since we're at the end of the episode, it's time for just a little... it's time for some admin stuff. Our website, if you don't know it already, it's thinkingsidewayspodcast.com. And we're also on iTunes, of course. And so if you find us on iTunes, of course, subscribe. Leave a review and a rating, and obviously the better the rating, the better we like you. So yeah,
true story.
Yeah. We can. You can also
totally a sliding scale.
Oh yeah, you can also stream us. There's Stitcher and Google Play and God knows what else. There's tons of that stuff out there. We're on Facebook. We've got a group and a page, so join the group. And we're on Twitter, where we are Thinking Sideways without the G. And there's a subreddit, Thinking Sideways. So get out there and post all sorts of stuff, preferably not nasty stuff.
Yeah.
And of course, you can email us, and we like to get emails.
Not nasty emails.
No, not nasty emails. But if you have suggestions or thoughts,
But also if you have
feedback and critique, yeah.
And feedback,
when I say nasty, I mean sending us weird. Nasty stuff.
No, we got all kinds of constructive, I think, criticism from people, and that's good. That's not a problem. Just don't be a jerk.
Yeah, constructive might be a loose term for some of the stuff.
Well, some of it's not so. Yeah, most of it's good though. Some people have called in and just sort of like impishly reminded us that, hey, you mispronounced this.
We know.
And most of those emails come, not surprisingly, from Britain. But anyway, our email is thinkingsidewayspodcast@gmail.com. And last of all, of course, if you want to support us, and obviously you do, there's Patreon. Patreon.com/thinkingsideways. You can pledge a certain amount of money, 50 cents, $1, whatever. It's just be aware it's per episode, so you're going to get dinged for whatever you pledge every time we run an episode. So just keep that in mind. You can pledge as much as you want. There's other ways, of course, to support us. We have merch. Go to our website, and you can buy mugs, T-shirts, and all kinds of cool stuff. We don't have guns up yet, do we?
Never.
No guns yet? Okay. Yeah, Thinking Sideways gun. I kind of like that.
No. Not happening, dude.
Yeah. What else? There's PayPal. You can also, for a one-time donation, do this whole PayPal thing. That's totally optional, of course, but if you feel like it, hey.
And thank you for everyone who has donated, and those who are doing the continuing donations. We greatly appreciate it.
It is. Totally. Anyway, that's about it for this week. I'm hoping that Brandon, one of these days, there'll be a little resolution of this. I think it's entirely possible there will be.
Yeah, me too.
And it's entirely possible there never will be. I don't know. Anyway, so until next week, toodaloo, everybody.
Bye, guys.
Bye. This episode of Thinking Sideways is not brought to you by short-term goals for long-term planning. Instead, it's brought to you by Credit Karma. When's the last time you checked your credit score? If you're like me, it's been forever. You may not know that your credit score might change more often than you think, and you should know where you are now and not a year ago. Credit Karma is here to help. Credit Karma is always free and there's no catch, no credit card needed. Go to creditkarma.com or download the Credit Karma app now.
Thinking Sideways. Hi there. Welcome to another episode of Thinking Sideways. I am your host, Joe, joined as always by
Steve
and by
Devin.
Yeah, and together we are the terrific trio.
Intrepid.
Yeah.
Investigative.
Yeah.
Stalwart. Oh, it's what they say in the old-timey radio things, and it's Starwald manservant Argyle.
Starwald?
But I can't say
Stalwart?
it. It's fine. Doesn't matter.
Okay.
Going on a good start.
Yeah, moving on.
Hey, Kevin, what's this word here?
Yeah.
I can't read.
Says, et cetera.
That's rude.
Sorry, Joe, continue on.
Yeah, let's do this. For this week, we decided to reach way back in time, clear back to the 17th century, as a matter of fact, for our mystery. It begins on the 16th of August in the year 1660, when William Harrison set off on foot from the village of Campden, Chipping Campden. I think that's Camden. What do you guys think?
I think it's Camden.
Yeah, it's Camden. It's spelled Campden, but I'm sure it's Camden.
It's once again our British listeners trying to trip us up with yet another tricky spelling and pronunciation.
I know. So he leaves his village towards the village of Charingworth, about 2 miles away, and he's going to collect rent money that's owed to his employer, who is the Viscountess Campden. And so she, being the rich, titled noble
ruler of the area,
person of the area, owns all the land, and so everyone's got to pay her rent. And so he's off to collect some rent. William Harrison was the steward of her estates, which is Chipping Campden, Gloucestershire, which is a small town in the middle of England somewhere.
Okay, where?
It's about 80 miles northwest of London.
Okay.
So converted, that is...
Kilometers, about 130 kilometers, 640 furlongs. It's in the Cotswolds. It's kind of like the very northern tip of the Cotswolds, which you may have heard of.
Maybe.
Nope.
Yeah. Back to our guy, William Harrison. He set out. He did not return by the usual time. So that evening, between about 8 and 9 o'clock, his wife sent their servant, John Perry, to go looking for him on the road from Charingworth. But Perry didn't come back that night either. And Harrison didn't come back, obviously, either. So early the next morning, William Harrison's son, Edward, set off in the direction of Charrington, also to look for his father. And he ran into John Perry on the road. So Perry tells Edward that Harrison was not in Charingworth, so they went together to Ebrington, which is a small village kind of between Charingworth and Camden.
Can I interrupt you for a second, Joe?
Yeah.
So all of these places are, what, a mile or two apart? Parkish?
Yeah, about right in that. Yeah, just no more than 2-3 miles apart.
Totally walking distance.
Oh yeah, totally.
Yeah, absolutely.
Maybe like an hour.
Like an hour's walk away from one another.
Yeah, and you can
I just want to have people understand the short distances that are being traveled.
Not huge. And I'm sure, it probably was a little bit slow going because you're walking on roads, 17th century roads, which are probably mud. It was a foot.
Dirt paths.
Yeah.
No, this is August, actually, so they probably weren't all muck.
They were just dirt paths.
Yeah.
They were dirt paths, but nonetheless, I'm sure it didn't take that long to get from one to the other.
Mm-hmm.
And so they went to Ebrington. There, they were told by at least one person that Harrison had been there the day before, but didn't stay. They found not much other word of him. They go back towards Camden. On the way, they hear news that a hat, collar band, and comb were found on the road between Ebrington and Camden. And when they finally found the person with the hat, comb, and collar, they recognized him as being William Harrison. So